Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. It is just starting to cool down. As you can see, I am in my sweater, so you don't know. It is not going to be that summer is now over. So let's get into this video because it is another segment of Nehanda in the comment section. So I want to address the first comment. I'm gonna leave I guess a response, like the person's name who was asking, because I can't remember everybody's name. Let me just look them up then. Let me just take it out like this. Hang on. All right. So first I'm going to address two questions from Coconut Water. Shout out to Coconut Water for commenting on my videos. So she I think it's a she, I'm not sure. Okay, but anyways, Coconut Water asked, what about attraction? And I'm going to give a very interesting anecdote because I think it's very fitting for this video, for this topic actually, because we were talking about attraction and picking within your like ranking, so to speak. So you should be more practical about the more realistic. In one of my videos, I mentioned being realistic about the type of guys that you pick, or the type of partner that you pick. I think men should also be doing the same. Although I feel like men are, I'm so sorry guys, my hair is getting on my nerves. That one little spot that just won't behave. It's a mess outside, and so it's really, really poofy. And I tried to like flat iron it so it wouldn't just be like, okay. So let's just do that, and let's get into the video because this coconut water asked, "This is not gonna work, is it? Damn it!" So, Coconut Water asks, what about attraction? Right? Should you not be attracted to the person that you are dating? And I say absolutely, but within reason. Because what you will find in relationships, like as a married woman, and what I've actually heard from other people, um, is that attraction and the things that you're attracted to actually change over time. And this is extremely important for you to remember when picking your partner, because I think we put too much emphasis on attraction and being attracted to our partner. And so a friend of mine, let's say somebody that I was counseling on this matter, had shared their experience about being in a relationship with someone who was very, very doting to them. Now, if you don't know what doting is, and I won't assume anybody knows anything about this kind of extremely fortunate situation to be in, but her partner doted on her and her son. Okay, it wasn't his son, it was um from a child from another relationship, and he was very doting to her and her son for the years that they were together. She could want for nothing. I'm talking about cars and houses and money and clothes, you name it, she could have it. He never said no. There was only one small problem, and yes, I use your imagination. If you're thinking what you think, whatever it is you're thinking, that's exactly what it was. It was a very, very, very small problem. She complained about how it was like the size of her pinky, and it was just, as a young woman, she was, really wanting to let her freak flag fly, and that was not going to happen with this person because it was just not doing anything. I'm trying not to get graphic here, guys. But after being in a relationship with this person who everything else was perfect and that just wasn't, far from it, she decided to leave said relationship. Fast forward to many years later. Oh, and on the way out of the relationship, some other things took place that made the relationship very complicated because, anyways, so it's relevant to the story, but if I give these specifics, you might know who I'm talking about. But anyways, this kind of thing happens a lot. So what's going on in the bedroom and the intimacy is not really cutting it, and the person leaves. And then you evolve, and this no longer becomes the one and only or the most important form of intimacy, which she later on found out when she found a younger, more able-bodied, endowed individual. And however, as she grew older with this person and was no longer interested in a person's endowment and stamina, her priorities shifted and she began to miss said relationship because she had a better connection with him that she couldn't realize or appreciate at the time than she did with her younger now lover. She's like complaining that he's always interested in that or he's only interested in that, and he brings nothing else to the table besides his perform what he performs in the bedroom, which I find, which to me was like hilarious at the time, but unfortunately her situation was very very dire because not only was this person only able to offer that, he was not a part of the his her son's life, or even somebody that she could rely on financially, or even be like depend on for any kind of other support. She still ended up having to go back to her ex for help, even though they were no longer in a relationship, which subsequently ended because she and this person, um, this person ended up finding somebody else, getting married to that person, and having their own family. And she was very bitter, and she did what she did the bitter bitch thing and contacted him publicly on Facebook and said some things about their wedding because he hadn't told her. And I was thinking to myself as she's telling me this story, like, yo, like, he does not owe you any explanation. You left him pregnant with his child, talking about, I cannot believe that he could even get somebody pregnant because ain't nothing much going on in that department. Yo, let me just say, she learned her lesson, but by the time she learned her lesson, it was too late. This can be prevented, and I know somebody's gonna come up here and say, Nehanda, you say this all the time, and I'm gonna say it again. I said what I said, mic drop. Self-awareness is an extremely important skill to learn early on in womanhood because your level of self-awareness can help you avoid certain kinds of situations like that. You realize that something like intimacy, while important, physical intimacy, while extremely important in your younger years, your libido can crash and burn very quickly as you get older as a woman. And you'll be thankful to have a relationship with a man that is actually your friend as opposed to somebody that you're just physically attracted to. Now, I understand that you don't want to pick like Quasimodo, you don't want somebody that is grotesque. But we're too committed to this ideology of he has to look like this and like this and like this that we tend to miss out on all different kinds of other experiences that might be right in front of us that we can learn to appreciate more as we evolve as individuals and as mature women. Now, this might not be the case for every single standard, but I want to encourage coconut water and many others like this person to consider other things that are of more importance and make a priority list. You will not get 100% of the things that you want. And sometimes you're going to have to make huge compromises in the things that you want. One of the things that was important to me in my relationship was to have somebody that was God fearing. And as I started to get much older, I was willing to adjust that. I knew what was a complete deal breaker for me, but I also knew what I could work with. And that was based on experience and reflection. And a lot of the times we compromise way too much. And I know you might be thinking, but you just said that I should compromise. You got to know at the end of the day what you can compromise and work with and what you can't. And the only way to do that is to practice more self awareness, and to be realistic. There has to be a gray area when it comes to things that you are willing to give up. And you need to think outside of the box in terms of what things you are completely committed to that are super important to you, and what things are of benefit to the greater picture. I knew that I was not wanting to raise a family by myself, and that meant that I had to compromise certain things about myself and my expectations about my relationships that would not necessarily be in alignment for who I was at that time. And so one of the things, I will give an example and then I'll move on to the next comment, was cheating. Like, that was like a big issue for me. Cheating was like, if he cheats, it's over. now that I'm married and invested in my husband with children and house and, you know, signed on the dotted line, baby, I don't really think I would have to think very hard before I give up my relationship to some other woman, especially if the circumstances were such that he was making an effort to not let me know. I think it's different if a guy is like in your face with it, or you like wake up and there's somebody like there's a third person in the like. I think that that might be like him trying to tell you like I'm not with it. I'm not for this. But if he is like if you kind of like find out by accident, or if it was like a one time thing, if you know that he's always coming home to you, then I might just let that slide. It's gonna hurt, of course, but I think that I've learned that anytime me and my husband have any kind of argument, I have to consider the bigger picture, because it's not just about how I feel in the moment. And we've become too acclimatized to divorce and breaking up that we think that you can just throw away the baby with the bathwater and not really consider exactly what it is it's at stake in the bigger picture when we are leaving our partners. And so I want us to be able to have contextual conversations and practice a little bit more self awareness with the way that we pick and choose. And I could talk about this at great length. As a matter of fact, I think I got a couple of videos on my Patreon dedicated to this issue, specifically how to pick, how to vet men, how to vet your future I do's. And it's a very big conversation. And I think that it's something that you have to know what your boundaries are. And that's kind of the issue with Black women, is that we just don't have, we have boundaries with everything else, but the boundaries that we set in our relationships are either too extreme or too non-existent. And so finding that healthy balance really is based on self-reflection, and how do I show, and asking yourself, how do I show up in my relationships? If my ex could talk about me to my face, what would they say? Or what would they say to other people about how they experienced me? I know a lot of people here sound like one of my exes. And maybe. But anyways, moving on to the next topic. I can already tell this is going to be a long ass video. So let's get into the next topic. Let me find this person's name. So the Alfred program wrote that my brother always calls me Alfred, so I found that really cute that it's called the Alfred program. Belize is not the same as the United States, and I think that while that might be true, and this might be going off a little bit on a tangent, but Belize has made a significant contribution to America. Um, and this goes beyond the understanding of Belize's participation in sports, entertainment, science, and even crime. Like, I don't even want to get into all of the known criminals who have made a historical impact on the pop culture, East Coast, West Coast drama that were Belizeans. All right. So you can go look up some of those details. Wasn't there even a rapper slash turned politician who spent a significant amount of time incarcerated and made it big, who was friends with Puffy? I don't usually call celebrity names out on this channel, but I allude to some people based on certain behaviors, but his kind of story is not significant and unique to him, and that's why I am not going to call his name like I didn't with other people that I've mentioned and described on my channel. I will also, however, be giving a huge shout out to my sister, who was the first Black woman to graduate from University of Buffalo, New York, with a degree, with a PhD in organic chemistry. Yes, queen, and that was American history as a Belizean Jamaican woman. Okay, so for you to say, or for, I think that we really need to be very careful about how we make those distinctions of American and Belizean, because what it means to be an American or a person of Black African descent in America is very intricate, and to be any American in America is very intricate. Everybody came to the country from somewhere, I think, and I think that we need to remember that that is a part of being American, and broaden the perspective as to what it is that makes America America, as it pertains to how we show up as Belizeans when it comes to the statistics, specifically about what I was talking about with the single parent households. There is one detail that I would like to mention in response to this comment, and that is the fact that a lot of Belizeans in the 80s and 70s were moving to America to find jobs and to find their way and finding employment to send back home to their children, who they left with younger siblings or their parents. And this created a very distinct phenomena of parents and of single parent or parent households that were not being headed by the one or two parents that should have been there doing the person's development, because they were chasing the American dream, get a career or get an education and then get a career and then make money to send back home to your children that you don't actually know, with the hopes of them having a better life than you did, was a very common way of thinking and being. And I think that that is something that we can attest to many people who live abroad in terms of the way these intricacies have affected the family structure. And so, yes, we are different, but we're not very, Belize is not far from America. I mean, Florida is like right there, and it's only like a half an hour flight. Germany is far, okay? That is a leap. But America is not far. And our ties to America is so much so that we have this running joke that if every Belizean came home from the United States, Belize would be overpopulated because there's so many of us who have made such a significant contribution to the population. Like I said, sports, entertainment, and just regular folk trying to live the American dream, military. Which now leads me to my other comments. Let me go find this young man's, I assume it's. So this person says, this is from G43X. He wrote a very, I assume it's a he. I think the difference in our experience is showing because you have experienced mentoring hundreds of boys, while I have experienced mentoring hundreds of men as a sergeant in the military, helping them receiving divorce papers while on deployment, women cheating on them with superior officers, for example, and tons of internal struggles, including incels, MGTOW, red pillars, and basic dating issues. One thing I will always help these men in facilitating a space where they can speak poorly about women they encounter. Yes, you heard right. I'm reading directly. Something that is being shamed out of society, and I think that it should be shamed. I shame women for talking about men poorly. I think this is what a lot of women empowerment groups actually do instead of having better conversations with men about the things that they want. I think that having bitch fests, whether it be male bitch fests or female bitch fests, are just not the way to go when it comes to solving the issue. Yes, you want to be able to unpack issues, you want to be able to address them, but you want to be able to address them in a healthy way. And I hope that maybe this person was trying to say, we want to make sure that men have a safe place to unpack and address the issues that they're experiencing. But I don't think that complaining about the issue will really past the point, will really help solve the issue. Also, about the military, mentorship is something that is very specific, and it can be done at any age and any time in a person's life. As a matter of fact, I will be making an announcement along those lines very shortly. So stay tuned. But I think that mentorship is actually a better alternative to just sitting around and talking bad about people because they hurt you. We all need to have a certain level of responsibility when it comes to the people that we pick to be in relationships with. And breakdown in relationships are hardly ever one sided. Although I know that a lot of times, in fact, 85% of the times, it is the woman that is filing, especially in the African American communities and Black African communities. It's almost always the woman that's filing. I understand and I acknowledge that. I also understand that there seems to be a major problem with communication about issues that people are experiencing. My own anecdotal experience with the military is that is a very specific, and respect to all those who serve in the military and defend their countries. I don't want to say thank you for defending our country because I'm not American, I'm not in America anymore. But I do respect the people that are in that space. And so that's a government space, that's a very specific authoritative space. So I kind of am a little bit confused about how this ties into men going their own way, since my understanding of men going their own way is just separating themselves from authority and society on a whole. And I think like military is like the upholding of society on a whole. I don't know. But that aside, military forces and the dynamics around being a military kid, a military mom, a military wife are very, very specific circumstances to which I cannot speak to in great detail. And so I'm just going to leave that there outside of the two things that I think as a principle are just not a healthy practice to sit around and bitch about people that hurt you is just not something to do. Unless, of course, you are a therapist in the military, then I think then that is well served purpose, but not all therapy is created equal. And that's me going off on a tangent there. So, um, there are some other comments that came up in my feed, and I will not be able to get to all of them, but I would like to encourage you all to keep them coming. Your comment may show up next Monday on my list, so keep the comments coming. If you're not already liked and subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so. And of course, if you can, please stay safe and stay free.